and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a perfect stripy start to our bright sunny Sunday. This is Safari Live. Ready. Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Sunday afternoon sunset safari. It is a beautiful day. We've got bright blue skies. It is warm and is very pleasant. In fact, it feels more like a spring day than winter, which is fantastic. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, aka the Batman, and it promises to be a good afternoon. We've already got our stripes in the form of the zebras, but there's lots of promise in that we had the sticks this morning and Hosanna, so we're going to try and see if we can't follow up on them. Remember, this is live, it is interactive, which means that you can get hold of us on tweet hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, and it is International Snake Day. So we're going to try and see if we can't do all things slithery and snaky this afternoon and try and see if we can't find a snake somewhere. That would be first prize, but we'll focus on everything to do with snakes as we go through the afternoon. So if you have any questions about snakes, remember hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. But before we get into the snakes, we'll start with another S and the stripes of a zebra. We have a small group that is out on quarantine clearings at the moment, and I'm very surprised that they're sitting right out in the open. It is really quite warm this afternoon. I believe at one point it was almost 32 degrees at about midday today at Djuma, which is a summer temperature, not really a winter temperature, and so I would have thought these guys would have been seeking some shelter, but it seems they're pretty happy where they are. At least there's a bit of a wind blowing just to cool things down and to get our zebras into the afternoon, and they'll probably spend most of the day here. You'll find they'll still be able to graze in this area, and when the night descends they'll be looking for open sections in order to stay away from the predators. There were lions that were roaring. We know the sticks within the south, the Birmingham male in the north, and so if you're a zebra, this is a perfect place that you want to be. It's open, you can see any lion that potentially would approach you. Remember, the zebras of this size are really only going to fall foul of lions. The leopards a little bit too big for most of the leopards out here, although you can never say never. We have seen some of the leopards take rather large prey items before, but a zebra is a very strong, powerful animal, and that means that in all likelihood only lions would be a problem. And so here they can spot the lions very well, and they'll have a much easier night of it than going down into the thickets. And it almost looks as though it's a stallion on the front there, and then behind him is two females and a young zebra at the back. Yesterday we did have a herd of zebra a little bit sort of away from where we are now, but there was a few more than this. It actually looks like this herd is split off slightly, and I wonder if the rest haven't gone down towards Gowrie Dam for a drink of water in this warm weather. Now, it's not just me out here this afternoon. We will be joined a little bit later by the Mara team, but there is one other person that's here on Djuma, and she has got her golden locks. She's had her energy drink to give her wings, and well, she's raring to say hello. So let's go across to Taylor.
Tristan, you're so funny. Good afternoon again, everybody, and once again, welcome to Safari Live. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Sebastian, and hopefully we're going to find all sorts of wonderful things to have a look at this afternoon. It's very hot, so potentially we could see many different types of animals. So I think what we're going to start off with is checking the watering holes, seeing as though it is so hot today. Now remember, live and interactive is what we are, so hashtag to Safari Live on Twitter if you've got any questions for us. And of course, as Tristan mentioned about it being Snake Day, we're going to be looking out for snakes, or signs of snakes at least. We'll probably find more evidence that the snakes have been around than an actual snake. But like I said in the pre-show, perhaps because it is so hot, they'll all take advantage of today, move around, maybe catch a meal or so. So it'll be nice to look out for any signs of them. We'll also head down into the Mulwati because it's been exceptionally windy the entire day. wow. Now James, you've requested straight off the bat to see a African rock python. Wouldn't that be amazing? Now a couple of days ago there was an amazing sighting of, I just want to go here because I see some warthogs. Let's start with warthogs. There was an amazing sighting in Buffalo's Hook of 2 African rock pythons mating, something I've never seen before. I don't think I've seen very many snakes mating. I'm actually just trying to recall some sightings. So that would be fantastic. If the snakes can hear me, we would like to see you, so please come out. There's a whole family of warthogs. I just want to try and get a spot where we can actually see them nicely. They seem relatively relaxed. Maybe they'll allow me to go all the way here. Let's see. Have you been rolling in the mud? Hi guys. Well, that's very kind of you to not run away from me. It's not often. Well, I think maybe I've spoken too soon. They look like they're getting slightly nervous and just shuffling off. Well, a whole family. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 warthogs. And they're most likely the youngsters of both of the adult females here. We've been seeing a family of about this size now for quite some time. Isn't this cool? All got their heads down grazing though. What I was really hoping to see though was a whole bunch of warthogs wallowing away in Chele Pan, but unfortunately not. We're going to go across now to Tristan and see what his stripy horses are up to.
Well, Taylor, I would imagine they are doing pretty much what the warthogs are doing, unless the warthogs have decided to lift their tails and run away with extreme sort of speed. But our zebras are just taking it very easy at the moment. You can see some of them are standing head to tail just to kind of keep the flies away. There are quite a number of biting flies that are still around. Not as many as we see in the summer months, but definitely still enough to cause a bit of irritation around the face. And you can see how perfectly it works. Look at how that tail flicks up near the nostrils and eyes of that zebra, and it keeps those flies away. Now, you would hope that your compatriot that you are standing next to has not got a dodgy tummy, because otherwise, well, lots of gas is coming your way if you're sitting like that, and not the best place to be then. But it seems like all is happy the way it is, and they don't seem to be wanting to move at all. I wonder if it's the same stallion we had yesterday, because he was so relaxed and we ended up driving within about 2 meters of him at one point and he didn't move at all. So I wonder if it's the same gentleman, and now, it seems like it is, because he's not worried about us at all, and almost like his eyes are closing every now and then, and he's almost having a little nap in the late afternoon sunshine. It is a Sunday siesta for our zebras at the moment. I think we're going to probably leave them shortly because, well, it is quite hot in the sun and we want to get a breeze going, and I do want to try and see if I can go and follow up on Hosana. So for those of you who don't know who Hosana is, or the sticks that I was talking about earlier, well, the sticks is a pride of lions that we very seldom see on Djuma. They tend to come up just in the odd occasion towards the southern side of Djuma, so they were around this morning and they chased one of our young male leopards called Hosana up a tree. And so I want to go and try and see what's played out there during the day, and while we do that, I believe James Indiana Jones Henry, all the way in the Masai Mara, is standing by and wanting to say hello, so let's go across to him in his fancy hat.
Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to this end of the Sunset Sunday Snake Safari. Yes, that's correct. My name is James Hendry. Very good. You, of course, are with Fergus and I. Hello, Fergus. And we'd love to hear from you. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us. I'm now going to swing swiftly to the right, as is Fergus. Where we have some elephants with no snakes upon them, and some giraffe, also devoid of any snakes on them. I suppose if you happen to be a giraffe or an elephant, World Snake Day is not an important day for you. You don't really like snakes, I imagine. In fact, I imagine many of our viewers, while having a healthy respect for snakes, wouldn't like to find one in their bed, for example. I wouldn't like to find one in my bed. Anyway, that is a beautiful herd of elephants. Our plan this afternoon, other than finding all the snakes in the Masai Mara, is to head towards one of the main crossing points where, if you've been watching the Safari Live Facebook stream, you'll know that we have had a number of zebra crossings already today, and I wondered if we wouldn't try and go along there and see if we couldn't pick some up using, Fergus's skills this end, as opposed to Stef or Scott and my skills at the river cams. Sally, you want to see a black mamba today. Sally, I will do my best to find a black mamba. It won't be a close-up shot, I'll tell you that for free. I was very happy to go and catch snakes in the rooms of the lodges where I used to work, all except for the mamba. The tool employed to go and fetch a mamba is normally a shotgun. That's slightly facetious, of course, but it is, if you are not a highly skilled snake catcher, it's not a very good idea to try and catch one. They're very fast and get very upset very quickly. Cobras, much more slow, much more docile, but mambas tend to be a lot more irascible. Larger also, terrifying. A little bit of weather on the horizon, sort of to the eastern side of where we're sitting now, and we'll try and avoid that. The last time Fergus and I came out, we were attacked mercilessly by a vicious storm that came in from the south. If we look over there towards the sort of northeast, you can see a blackening of the skies, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, the wind is blowing that away. I think it was sitting on top of us a little bit earlier, and so I'm hoping by the time we by the time we end this drive, it won't be anywhere near us, and it'll be a long way north of here, which is a good thing. We'll hopefully be drawing the large herds of wildebeesten this way. Marvellous. Right, we're going to continue, see if we can't catch up with one of the crossings. It is a glorious day. Apparently, I'm told, about 24 degrees Celsius, 75 Fahrenheit. I think that feels about right. Yes, I think it is about right. But some chilly mornings of late. Huge amount of rain yesterday. And, well, it's just very inspirational to be out here. And I hope many of you who watched enjoyed our TV show on Friday. Willow Wanderer, you're wondering about if there are many kinds of snakes here in the Mara. Yes, there are many kinds of snakes. There are different kinds to the Sabi sands. I think one of the most obvious different ones is something called a red cobra, which is unsurprisingly a cobra that is red. Jumbo! Buddy, I don't know. I saw somebody up there just now, just around where that giraffe is. So if you head up there, you might be lucky. Okay. He asked me where the lion was. I don't know where the lion was. I moved on swiftly, of course, because the person in the back seat decided he'd take a picture of me. It does astound me how many people will see you and then just start taking pictures. I mean, would you go up to somebody in a shopping centre and just start taking pictures of them? No, I don't think you would. Anyway, the red cobra is one of them. Scott Dyson has a puff adder skin, which I have pilfered from him and put into the studio, or into the migration control as we now call it, this big. I've never seen a puff adder that size in the Sabi sand in South Africa, so I guess we can see bigger puff adders. But I have to say, snake wise, I haven't seen a snake here yet, and so I really am not very sure as to what's going on with all the snakes. Now, we're going to head across to Tristan, who's continuing with the snake narrative, not with a snake, but with a bird that likes to eat a snake.
We do indeed. So if you're a snake on International Snake Day, best you avoid this area, because this is a bird that specializes in going after snakes. It is a brown snake eagle, and you can see, look at its very large eye. That yellow eye is diagnostic with a rounded head and those bare featherless legs, which are filled with hardened scales. So as snakes are caught and try to strike back at this bird to injure it, you'll find a situation where those legs are so hard that the fangs don't actually get through them, and venom then can't be injected into the legs, and the snake can then pick up the snake eagle can pick up the snake, fly up, and then dispatch the snake from there. every now and then it does go wrong for a snake eagle. We know of that story with that black mamba that took on the snake eagle close to Chitwa Dam, that ended up in an epic struggle between the snake eagle and the black mamba until Tundi and Tumba got involved, and all four of them were embroiled in the struggle. And it was interesting because what happened is the snake eagle came down and it looked like an immature snake eagle. It wasn't a full-grown adult, and it took on a mamba a little bit bigger than what it had originally thought. And as it came down, it landed too low down on the mamba, and the mamba reared up and managed to get the snake eagle around the face and neck area, and it obviously got in enough venom to cause some distress for that snake eagle. It didn't die straight away, but it almost went paralyzed, and then Tundi and Tumba came in when the struggle ensued and the noise that came, and they were actually more interested in the mamba than they were. And the poor snake eagle was still lying under the bush, completely immobile but alive, which was not very pleasant at all. And the next morning it was gone. So I think something like a hyena or maybe even Tundi came back and finished off the job that evening. But it just goes to show you that even when you are the predator, you can sometimes become the prey if you're not careful about what you do. So these snake eagles need to be a little bit wary, and it is amazing that they can go after these mambas and puffaders and all these venomous snakes that we get out here in South Africa and still come off best. So pretty interesting bird. Now below the snake eagle there is a camouflaged animal, and it's an animal that doesn't really strike you as being camouflaged when you see them. So just down the road, if we look there, you try to see if you can spot an animal, and I'm not talking about the bird, but just there, if you see a little ear poking out just to the left there, Craig, there it is. So there is a little ear of a zebra. So you would have thought that the zebra's color and pattern would have stuck out, but there its head is shaking, but you can see black and white patterns actually do blend in behind the contrast of the bush. So there is a zebra, it's turned its head, and now you can see it a little bit better. Isn't that incredible? So here comes some more zebras, and these must be the same zebras that I was referring to yesterday that have split off from the group we saw just now on the main roads, or I mean on quarantine area. So very cool to see. Right, there is a car behind me, so I'm going to just let them come past while I start heading slowly down towards where the sticks are. Saying hello to Taxon and to Fanoti and all his guests. We've seen them a few times over the last few days, so always got to just say hello because they really do help us out a lot out here with all of our sightings. Now I'm going to carry on down towards Twin Dams, slowly puttering along and enjoying the beauty of this warm afternoon. And I believe Taylor has something that will probably be not as happy about the warmth this afternoon.
I do feel terrible for the Waterbuck. They have to have the shaggiest coats out of the antelope species that we see here in the Sabi sand, so they definitely will be today. Well, why not come down towards Buffelshoek Dam to quench your thirst? And that's exactly what these two Waterbuck are doing. It wouldn't surprise me if there were some more just hiding at the back there, but a very, very pretty sight. We've actually had some fantastic sightings of Waterbuck down at Buffelshoek Dam over the last few days. Been very, very spoiled. But aren't they just sort of majestic creatures? I think this could be the same bull that we saw the other day too. His horns are really massive. Now, obviously Waterbuck are known for getting quite large horns and quite a nice splay to their horns as well. But he is also a very, very good looking fella. Quite large, but I reckon that he's in the prime of his life now. Well experienced. And look at him going, still sucking up all that water. Remember, they have to drink every single day, and I think on days like this it wouldn't surprise me if they come down to the water's edge more than once. And in winter, this is the sort of the time that you'll catch the animals drinking at the dam, not necessarily right at the end of the day, but typically to the middle of the day. Now, Di, you said that they're all cute, they're all shaggy. They are indeed. That's why I always feel sorry for them. I don't know why they don't go into the water. Come on, let's see how waterproof your coat actually is. Remember, they do have those oils, those sebaceous glands. You can't really see them too well now. You might see them on her. There we go. There's a little wet patch just on her underside of her belly. And they've got that on either side of their bodies. And they secrete a foul-smelling substance, You know what I actually really want to do is I wouldn't mind finding an intact Waterbuck carcass and actually having a closer look at those sebaceous glands. I'd be very intrigued to see what that substance must feel like, and then also what those glands look like. But it's very effective at repelling water from their coats. We don't see it much down here in South Africa, but they normally run across the water or swim across a dam if they need to get away from predators. Look at these horns. He's a massive bull. He is beautiful. And hopefully he's mating with lots of females so he can pass those good genetics on. I can't imagine any of the Waterbuck cows will turn him down. He is a stunning man. He's very, very fit. He's fat. All the things that the female Waterbuck will be looking for. And they've got those striking markings on their face too, almost like a white eyebrow. We see a lot of the antelope with those white markings, and of course the classic white ring around the rump, which is the easiest way to identify the Waterbuck. And off they go. Now that they've had a drink, I'll probably go somewhere else. Or let's see, he might phlegm and grimace. I thought she was going to maybe urinate for a second. Are you quite excited there, young lady? Oh, actually, let's see what happens here. See how she keeps lifting her tail. It's almost as if she's presenting herself to him. Or are you just going to use the luxury facilities? No, I think she's very excited by this boy. Maybe that's why they've moved off. Maybe the rest of the herd are still in the distance, or perhaps they've already come down to drink water and moved on and left the honeymoon couple down here. I'm actually just trying to think what the gestation period of a Waterbuck is. I might have a look. I think it's about between 6 and 8 months, if I'm not mistaken. I'm probably mistaken. Let me quickly look in my book. Very quickly see. We can try and gauge. Hang on, here's antelope. Oh, that was fantastic. I got that so quickly. Normally it takes me ages to find things in the books. Let me just search here. Where does it say this? Oh, it's this book. I love this book that I'm reading, well, I look at. But just, it takes forever to try and find anything. Reproduction. Yes, that's probably where I should be looking. Yes, 8 to 8.5 months. So we're about right. So that would make sense. That's quite a long gestation period too for an antelope. But there they are. Are you going to get up to anything? Perhaps they're camera shy. He's definitely been around though, this bull. Now, Natalie, you're wondering what is that ring on his rear for? It's quite interesting. You'll see lots of different types of follow me signs on animals, and the most classic follow me sign has to be that of a warthog. So when we see warthogs running away from us, they stick their tails right up in the air, and that's their follow me sign. So that's exactly what that white ring on a waterbuck's bottom is for. It's so that if they are running through thick vegetation or they're running away, it's quite an easy thing to sort of see and to be able to, of course, follow. We see it with impala, kudu, inyala. They've all got quite a bit of white underneath their tails, so you get that flash of white. Lions have got the black markings on the back of their ear and also the black hair on the tip of the tail. So there's lots of different types of follow me signs. I wonder if this cow is not an estrus, because she seems very excited, and obviously she's urinating a little bit every now and then. I would just love for that male to walk over and sort of phlegm and grimace. That could be quite nice to see. But he also doesn't seem to be too excited by her at the moment. Perhaps they've already mated. Now, all right, from Texas, you're wondering if Waterbuck are monogamous. Now, unfortunately not. So you'll see males competing for breeding herds of Waterbuck. Obviously, this is not quite a herd now, but like I said, there is a herd that hangs around here, because we've seen them a couple of times at Buffelshoek Dam over the last week. So no, they're not. It just depends whichever male's in the herd at the time. Well, he hopes that he's in power in that herd when most of the girls are in estrus. That's the idea. And a bull like this, because of his size and because of his experience, you might find that most of the cows will be coming to estrus. I wonder if she urinated a little bit down there on the ground, because he's got his nose to the floor. Let's see if he's going to phlegm and grimace. Or you're going to just drink some water. Let's see, he'll go over, because she did drop a little urine a little bit further ahead. Let's see now. I think she looks keen, but he's just not showing really too much interest in her. He's more worried about food by the looks of it. He's found something to nibble on over there. A couple of starlings also feeding amongst their feet, hoping to catch the odd insect that they kick up. If I was a bird, I'd be feeding at the water's edge today. I think a lot of the insects will be coming down to get moisture too. Let's see, come on boy, give us a sign. Now Larry, you've said, does it look like the male waterbuck is limping? I'm not sure, because that ground that he's walking over is quite uneven. It might be quite soft too. So it's a bit difficult to tell. So we'll see if he moves onto level ground, it might be easier to see. But remember, sometimes you can, when you sink into the mud, it might look like you're a little bit on the injured side. I can't see any obvious damage, or any swollen joints or anything like that on his legs, no cuts. Let's see when he takes a few steps forward. The ground should get a little bit harder the further he moves away from the water's edge. No, he's not cooperating today. They're too hot to function. Very interesting though. Okay. I don't know if we're really going to see too much more action. He doesn't actually seem to be interested in the girls whatsoever. Let's carry on. I'm looking for elephants. That's what I'm really looking for. I was hoping that we're going to see them, considering that it's so hot. Okay, bye honeymoon couple, if you are a honeymoon couple. Right. I thought we were really going to get lucky here and have the odd elephant safari, and you can indeed ask us questions. We'll keep searching for elephants, and hopefully we'll find them, maybe some buffalo, but I do know one person that has already found buffalo. So let's go across to James in the Mara.
Good afternoon everybody again. There we have some beefies. Hello beefies. Yes, look at you. And there are a lot of beefies, and you can see that they're looking a little nervous. This is on account of the fact that there seems to be something akin to a tornado slash hurricane slash typhoon coming up behind us. And well, I didn't think it was going to hit us because I thought the wind was blowing in an opposite direction, and well, it might be. I'm still getting spatterings of rain. Anyway, there's a very relaxed herd of buffalo. They, of course, are not migrators. They do not like to migrate to the great herds of wildebeest, zebra, Thompson's gazelles, and eland. They are sedentary. Fergus? Sedentary, I tell you. You believe me. Good, thank you. This pleases me to be believed. Other than that, they are possibly hunkering down. They may well know something about the weather that we do not. This would not be difficult, of course. There is a 78% chance of rain in this area, but of course that is a fairly meaningless thing to say, because the rain here is so isolated. Which means that unless it can rain in a patch as big as these buffalo and then not anywhere around them, if you know what I mean. So although there is definitely going to be, and is indeed, rain around here at the moment, you will find that it's very isolated and localized rain. Hello Stef, apparently you say that this is very impressive. I think, as Kirsten says, you're talking about the buffalo and not the rain. It is rather impressive, I must say. Now, I don't know if we can actually see this, but the buffalo are surrounded by oxpeckers some of the time, but also starlings. And you find that starlings actually sit on the buffalo. They look like wattled starlings to me, and I think that's probably what we have. And they fly around onto the buffalo, obviously. Well, I don't know what they're obviously doing. They might just be hitching a ride and then leaping down to grab the invertebrates out of the grass, of which there must be many on a grassland like this. There, well, that is an oxpecker, though. Yes, it is an oxpecker, that one. You can see the culms of Themida triandra wafting in the wind there. And as always, my biological teacher of the ether, Judy H., sent me a little note on the name of Themida triandra, which is the red oatgrass we're looking at there. Themida, the triandra, comes from the fact that there are 4 spikelets on each culm. I'll try and show you what that means if I can get close enough to one to actually pick it. 3 of which apparently are male, and 1 is bisexual. Isn't that amazing? So it refers to the 3 male, which was a bit sexist really. 3 male spikelets. There are 4 spikelets, 3 of them will be male, 1 of them will be bisexual. Isn't that amazing, Fergus?
That's quite amazing.
Yes, you didn't know that, did you?
I did not.
No, I didn't either until Judy H told me. Now, we don't have an enormous amount of time out here before we'll have to be back home, so I'm going to suggest, if nobody objects terribly strongly, that we move along towards the crossing points, because I haven't been back to them this year at all, and I would quite like to get there and just have a look-see. If you're wondering what this device is, may I suggest you tweet Jandre. You can't tweet him, unfortunately, because he doesn't have a Twitter account, but it is some form of gimbal that we're going to mount a night camera on. Seems to be performing quite well, so that's good. Now, Francis, you're in Israel, and you say, why do some animals migrate and why do some not? Well, it's just to do with the ecological niche that they happen to fill. And it's easy to tell you why the carnivores don't migrate. They don't migrate because their youngsters, of course, grow very much slower than the youngsters of, for example, wildebeest and any of the antelope species and the gazelles, which can run almost from birth. The young of the carnivores can't. Why can't the young of the carnivores? Why do they develop so slowly? Well, because of their strategy, because they cannot afford to be in utero for nearly as long. They are born much smaller, much more altricial, and so that's why they don't migrate. 1 second. Chui. They told me about it, but I'm afraid I haven't seen it. No. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. Chui is a leopard, by the way. I was told about a leopard in this area, but I couldn't see it, and I wanted to go to the crossings. What was I going on about? Oh yes, so that's why the carnivores don't migrate. Why don't buffalo migrate? Well, they don't have to. They are bulk grazers who are able to eat very dry grass. That means they don't have to follow the rain. They have a digestive system able to cope with the dry grass. Why do wildebeest migrate? Well, they don't have a digestive system that can cope with the dry grass. They don't need one because they can run, which means that although they have to expend energy moving, and although their physiology is different, they have a source of food that enables them to do that. The buffalo have a probably slightly physiologically less expensive digestive system that allows them to stay in one place, so they don't need quite as much energy. And there will be variations of those throughout. Some animals do migrate all the time, some don't. You know that there are wildebeest in southern Africa that can stay put. Elephants in some areas will move huge distances, especially in a place like Botswana. If there is wind noise, I apologize. And so it just really depends on where they live. Some can cope with it, some can't, some have to, some don't, some have a mixture of the two. Let's have a look at these elephants before my head blows clean off my shoulders. Because I don't want my head to blow off my shoulders. It's so unpleasant. There are some elephants. I'm just going to go the other side of the road actually, because there's a car coming. Oh dear, the steering's locked. This is catastrophic. Hang on. There we go. We're okay. Look at the very odd shaped tusks on that one there. There we have. That one, yes, well done. I do find that the tusks of the elephants here tend to be much thinner than the ones in Kruger. I'm not sure why that should be. Could easily be because the thick ones were shot out during the 19th century by those what we termed early conservationists, naturalists, aka butchers of the wilderness. Focus, distressingly the wind seems to... No, still blowing away from us into our faces, that's good. And I'm sorry the wind is loud, everybody. I'll try and... Coming at quite a speed behind us. Kirsten, is it raining at home yet? No, I can see home, it's not raining there. Now there's a very large cow to the right hand side, and she's talking to the cow in front, I think. Also odd shaped tusks. Yeah, I believe you're getting some black screen from us at the moment. We're going to head across back to Tristan now and try and sort out that signal issue.
It's no good, James. The Gremlins are in full muscles, and hopefully they're migration of their own all the way up to the Mara to cause trouble there now too. We've come to Twin Dams where these sticks were supposedly lying, but there is no sign. There is just tracks for elephants everywhere, which is not a good thing, because it's in all likelihood could mean that these elephants have chased these lions, and now it's going to be a bit of a tough one to find them. Hopefully they didn't chase them south into Little Gowrie, but we're going to have a little look around and see if I can't find where these sticks might be. It's so warm that wherever they are, they must be lying down there. I don't think they would have gone far from the water. Hang on a second, is that their tracks there? I'm just checking just to see if there isn't any tracks for them here. No, there's nothing to worry about there. But there go the elephants. You can see them crossing now in front of me, which is good news. Although I think we're going to catch the tail end of them. No, don't disappear up the bank. So they're just south of the road at the moment, and I think some of them might be at Baboon Pan still. So we might just quickly jump up onto Baboon Pan and see if we can't find some more of them. But those are the elephants, the offenders that were at Twin Dams, I would imagine, and they might have chased these lions somewhere else. There seems as though there's more Ellies about to come down into the riverbed itself. So let's see, I can see one just on the right hand side of the riverbed, just see a few sort of branches moving there. And it seems like quite a nice herd. There was a number of tracks that I could see. Oh, it's a big female, look at the size of her, and she's been having a mud bath. You can see she's covered in mud. So there's quite a few muddy wallows around Baboon Pan and Twin Dams, and it is the perfect place on a hot day like today to get some mud and sort of splash it all over yourself and cool yourself down. I know James was saying that the Mara elephants tend to have much thinner tusks than our elephants here, and it would be interesting to know exactly why. I wonder if there's a nutrient that ours are getting out of the certain soil types we get here as opposed to those there, or the types of trees that these elephants are feeding on. I know a lot of the elephants in this area are feeding off bark and roots and varying other things, and they might be getting certain nutrients that causes a thicker, heavier set tusk. It also is genetics at the end of the day, and so that might be the case as well. And the thicker, heavier tusk is developed due to the fact that they've fed off roots and bark more than they do off grass, and therefore the tusk is more prone to breaking if it's thinner, and they need the thicker ones to be able to sustain their diet in this area But I always love how Ellies come down a hill. They almost seem to run down, and as though their weight catches up with them, and you end up with a situation where they sort of a series of miscalculated falls is how they actually come down and eventually get their balance halfway across a dry riverbed. But we must have just missed these elephants at Twin Dams. They only have just come across. I can see there's a couple just above me here as well that are starting to come down towards the drainage section. So there's some just on the top of the hill over there. There's one's bum sticking out, and difficult to see it, but you can just see the backside, and the rest of them are starting to come down. So it seems as though they've just finished drinking, and now it's down into these shady areas, particularly in the Mulawati. There's lots of shade, and it is perfect place to go and forage for food in a warm afternoon. We'll also find that they might even come down and start kicking sand and making holes to be able to drink water. You'll find a situation in this riverbed that if they go to certain areas and they dig deep enough, there'll be a seep that will still be happening, and that seep will be crystal clear water that is filtered through the sand layer, and it is far tastier than drinking from a muddy wallow that buffalo and varying other animals have lay in and defecated in and urinated in. So these riverbed systems are a far better idea to drink from, and that's why they often do dig. But it's amazing just to see how every single one of them is covered in mud. They must have had an absolute field day wherever they were. They must have been throwing mud all over themselves. The good news is that hopefully them moving southwards would have caused these lions to be chased further north, and so it's not bad that they're in this area. I want to go up and just check just now, once they disappear, if there's not any sign of the lions' tracks going south. So John, you say a lot of young ones in this herd. Well, seems to be a lot of young ones. Indeed, although there are still some adults up at the top that are coming down slowly. So even though there are a lot of young ones, we might find now the last few that come down are the adults. But remember with elephants is that even when you see young ones, a lot of the females will be breeding a lot earlier than the males. So smallish elephants that are around 12 years old will already be having their first mating session, and by 14 they're sometimes producing their calf. And a 14-year-old elephant is not a very big elephant. It actually looks quite small, and so a lot of these could be from younger females, and that's why it looks like there's a very high young ratio as opposed to big old matriarchal females that are more experienced. You can see some of them coming down now, some of them on the top. So Paula, you're asking if all elephants grow tusks. Well, in the African elephants, yes, so both male and female will grow tusks, although you will find a situation where some females have a recessive gene where their tusks do not grow. So you can see there's a female with tusks at the moment, and both male and female elephants do theoretically have tusks, but every now and then you will get an anomaly. And actually within this herd, the first female that came down... So I was just listening to Tux, sorry, it was just giving me an update. But in this herd there is actually one that doesn't have tusks, so it does happen sometimes. Copy that, thanks Tux. There's also elephants here on Mulawati Gari Junction. Indian elephants, it is slightly different. You'll find that with the Indian elephants, the never have tusks, and the males very seldom. So it's not common for males to have tusks. They do have them every now and then, but not very many. And I didn't actually do that until we had a group of guys from Sri Lanka. So if the guys from Leopard Trails are watching, hello everybody. I know they often watch our show and are big fans of what goes on, and they are some of the nicest guys in the world. And they were telling us a lot about the Sri Lankan elephants, which is deemed an Asian elephant. And those Asian elephants, they were telling me that the females very seldom get tusks. Well, the females don't get tusks, and the males very seldom. So there's only a few what they call tuskers, which is male elephants that have decent sets of tusks within their system. So just interesting, the difference between the two. And I wonder if it's not because in a place like Sri Lanka there's not as many predators. There's also maybe a different type of feeding structure. It would be interesting to know. You know, there it might be a lot wetter and more forested, and that would make it much easier for these animals to feed without tusks than it is in a place like this where they're constantly using their tusks to be able to break trees and branches and roots, and they also then use them for defense against things like lions. So it's an interesting kind of scenario, and one that I don't know the exact answer to as to why they wouldn't have and why the African elephants would. but they are more slowly coming down. It just seems as though they're taking a bit of time in the shade. So I'm going to sit for a little bit longer and wait for the last few to come down. There seems like a tiny little baby, and it seems like the lions at least are not too far from us. Tax says they look as though the tracks are going westwards into the bush back to where they were this morning. And so while we sit with our Ellies and see if we can't find the lions as well, let's go across to Miss McCurdy and see what her plans are and where she is and whether or not she's had any luck of her own this afternoon.
Going live. Sorry about that, everybody. There was just some guys driving past us and they were trying to stop for a big chat, but I couldn't really talk to them as we were linking across. I feel so terrible, but I suppose I'm working, if you call this work. I'm so happy for you, Tristan, that you managed to find your elephants. Tristan has been saying in camp almost every single day, I just want to find elephants, and he stomps his foot on the ground. So he's got them. Now we were trying to pick up on tracks now. There were some elephants that had just come out onto the road and were walking sort of left to right, but unfortunately I think they stayed in the west. They didn't cross over into Vuyatela. I haven't quite decided where we're going just yet. I was actually going to turn off and check around Impala Plains, but I seem to have missed my turn off, so now I'm just checking. Shame, I feel really terrible about not being able to stop and chat to those guys. Oh well, I'm sorry if you watch the show. I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to feel as though I just shrugged you guys off. That's always the worst thing, is everybody wants to stop and talk to us all the time, and we love chatting. I mean, hello, that's why we do what we do, is because we enjoy talking. That's not always possible. Now, where are we going to go from here? What we might do is maybe we'll go back and we'll just check all the way. We'll check all the way to the signs, to Gowrie Main Junction, just to see if maybe Shadow wasn't walking around here. She's renowned for moving during the day, and she loves this section, and she always crosses into Vuyatela. We haven't seen her for a few days now either. I'm so sorry, Sebastian, this road is so bumpy. I'm trying to not drive on the corrugations. The camera doesn't bounce around too much, but it is virtually impossible. Right, there isn't much out actually. We've seen a handful of impala, and that's about it. I haven't seen a wildebeest or a zebra just yet. Obviously those Waterbuck, Buffelshoek Dam. No snake tracks just yet. Maybe as we carry on. Let's see if there's a fork-tailed drongo here. Whether by the time I reverse it's going to still be there, I don't know. We'll give it a go though. Little fork-tailed drongo swooping around, trying to, of course, catch all sorts of things. There we go. Top left. A little bit to the left. You're just missing it. Go to the left. There we go. You've got it. It's in the screen. There it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. There's a fork-tailed drongo. Just hiding amongst the leaves. Now, as I spotted it, the reason why I spotted it is because it came flying up from the grass. And it had a little insect in its mouth. I don't know what it caught. But on a day like today, you can expect quite a bit of movement from the insects. I'm surprised the biting flies haven't been attacking my legs yet this afternoon. Huh. What are you going to catch next for us? He's not sure just yet. Sitting very still. Still quite windy, as you can see. Not as windy as what it was this morning. Oh, I say that and then a big gust comes through. Looks like it's looking for its next meal. You're looking left, looking right, up, down. It must be difficult to balance on a branch like that and then try and move your head around. I don't think I'd be able to do it as well as this bird. And of course that's why I'm a human and not a bird. I'm hoping that we can see it catch another insect. I enjoy watching birds when they catch their prey and watch them eat it. I still think the most entertaining must be the hornbills, and we were talking about it this morning actually. Maybe we'll see some termite activity, who knows, maybe some harvester termites. I'll keep an eye out for them. It'll be quite nice to watch. This is a lovely bird, a fairly common one out here. You're not going to catch anything for us, are you? Okay, fine. Bye, fork-tailed drongo. We'll continue looking for something else then. I would also like to see the elephants today. I don't know where we're going to get lucky though. I thought we went past Sydney's dam as well a little bit earlier, and I had such a good feeling. I thought that we were going to get there. Just obviously we can't drive into Buffelshoek. No, beautiful open plain, so you can see the dam quite easy. And I thought on a day like today, surely we were going to get a herd of buffalo resting up in the shade around there. But no, nothing. Not even an impala in sight. So I wonder if there wasn't maybe a predator that had been walking by during the day, maybe flushed everything out. Because typically there's wildebeest around there, there's normally impala too, and the odd buffalo here and there. Okay, you know what, I'm going to change my mind. Let's go in here. Let's not continue on this road because I feel like we're going to bump into lots and lots of cars. Oh yeah, just got to go very slowly here. This section of the road is always eroded. I think what we might have to try and do this afternoon is perhaps find some birds. How does that sound? I think Tristan's going to have all the luck today, and that's fine with me. We were spoiled this morning. So a birding safari and a termite mission it will be today. Who knows what else we might find. But I'm going to send you across to Tristan. He's managed to reposition and he's still got the elephants.
Well, we've had a nice turn of events because poor Hosanna's day has just gotten worse. He's now not only had the lions chase him, but it sounds like these elephants have just chased him now too. Behind here. Oh, I don't think so. We're gonna try and see if we can't with the camera just scan around. But he was just on the side of the road, and apparently the elephants pushed him a little bit further in and southward. So the elephants are slowly moving in this direction, which means that potentially they could push him back towards where we are. If he gets a little bit of a fright, maybe he'll move this way. You can actually see that female is posturing quite heavily. Her head is raised, she's lifting her head up, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to see him trotting along towards here. The problem is there is a little drainage section, and if he drops down in there, we're not going to be able to see him. Not that we can see him now. There he goes. Yeah, we can see him. So he's just slinking away from us at the moment. There, you can just see him in the shadows. So he's slinking further southwards. What we almost need is those elephants to come on the southern side of him and push him down a little bit. It's a little bit down from there, Craig. The leopard is there. There, you had him in that shade. There he is. He's just walking in the center of your frame, right in the middle. Just see him moving. There he goes. There he's slinking off. So poor Hosanna's had a rough day today. If that is Hosanna, it almost looks a bit slender to be him. To me, it looks a little bit maybe like Shongile, so I don't know, maybe it is Hosanna. It would make sense given that he was in the tree in this area this morning, but it looked very slender and small. Craig, I'm going to try to go forward because there's a big gap here that we might be able to see him. No, there he goes, he's running, unfortunately. So whoever it is has just been chased properly now and is now no longer visible, I don't think. So I just saw it run just from that sort of side there across in that gap and down into that drainage section. But let's sit for a bit. Maybe another elephant will come along and potentially push poor Hosanna or Shongile, whoever it is, back towards us. But if it is Hosanna, a very bad day indeed. Now, it seems as though we're going to sit and be a bit patient, and James has arrived at a river of his own. So let's go across to him and see what's happening on the Mara.
We have arrived at the river, everybody, and this is where I think over there was a zebra crossing today. I can't quite picture it. I think it was over there. It may have been just further along, but if you were watching the Facebook broadcast, you would have seen some rather terrifying scenes. We also had scenes of crocodiles eating a zebra. We didn't catch the takedown further up the river. We've gone past that area too, and now we just came down here to see what was going on. As Fergus points the camera that way, you will see the object of my terrification, and that of course is that storm heading towards us. It is now over the final control, creating some clattering on the roof there, and well, it looks like it's going to hit us, I'm afraid. Anyway, Fergus and I will bravely sally forth, won't we, Fergus? Fearless and inconsiderate. Over there, you see him there, Fergus? He's the big grey thing. There we are. Can you hear the rain, Ferg? Yes, I. Everybody, if we have to leave you suddenly, we'll say, "Oh dear, we have to leave you suddenly," and then put up our rain covers. Anyway, there he is in the rain, and just below him is a crocodilian. Now, I will tell you that while we were watching the crossings today from the camp, and I've mentioned this before, I've mentioned how everybody loves to hate a crocodile, how the crocodile is the ultimate villain. And while they were catching the second zebra that we saw die today, well, there was no question in the final control as to who everyone wanted to win. There was great cheering every time the zebra managed to kick free, and then gasps of despair as the zebra was grabbed again by the pack of crocodiles. And I think it's called a pack, it might be called a flotilla, I'm not sure. Anyway, there was no doubt as to the fact that everyone wanted the zebra to escape the clutches of the world's most powerful jaws. Apparently, I'm told it's called a float or bath of crocodiles. I believe that as much as I believe that it is E-A-S-K, bask of crocodiles. Well, it might be, but I guess that's the same as calling a dazzle of zebra. No biological text would ever call it a dazzle. It's only because it sounds nice to us that we call it a dazzle. Now, Mariah, you say, how quickly does a zebra get eaten by the crocs in the water? That crocodile today was devoured by about 15 crocodiles. Not the crocodile, zebra was devoured by about 15 crocodiles, I would say, in the space of about an hour, maybe even less. There'll be little bits and pieces that are stashed under rocks every so often. What you got there, Ferg?
Some ducks.
Duck? Wow. There they are. I am going to tell you. Indeed, it fills me with a great sadness. But there's naught we can do about it, I'm afraid. All right, let's head back to Tristan. He's waiting for Hosanna, I believe. We'll do our best to escape the rain.
Well, yes, unfortunately he was chased by these Ellies, and I think he's gone way further south than where we are now. So unfortunately, I think that's going to be our last view of him for the day. If it was indeed Hosanna, it didn't look quite like him. It looked as though it was a little bit on the small side. I don't know if maybe it wasn't Shongile. I know that I was speaking to Tax and Aubrey, and they were telling me that this morning when they were following tracks, they had tracks of both Hosanna and what looked like Shongile together around this area. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this is little Shongile, Hosanna maybe a further down, went straight south into Little Gari, and this is where Shongile is, because that leopard looked quite small and squat and was sort of slinking off and looked very slender. And I know this morning Taylor was saying that Hosanna was quite swollen and full, and as though he had had quite a big meal. So I would imagine that that might have been Shongile. You can see the elephants are still quite nervous. They've walked through and they're still sniffing. They're looking around. They obviously can pick up a scent of a predator in this area, so they know that there was something here, and that's why they're being a little bit more on the shy side. Unfortunately, we're right on the main road, which means that there's a number of vehicles that are in this area, and it's causing a bit of a traffic jam at this stage between elephants and leopard and all the other things that we see here. It creates a bit of a sort of mess at the end of the day. But here come our Ellies, and isn't this the most beautiful female? She's massive. You can see this is the one I was talking about that doesn't have the tusks at this stage. She's got no tusks whatsoever. So it's not that those have broken off. That is just an elephant that lacks tusks, so it's a genetic defect that she doesn't have them, and it's becoming more common in female elephants. Michael, yes, there is there is some sort of a hierarchy. You'll find that the matriarch is the highest ranked, and then there will be females after that that will dictate a little bit of what goes on. So there'll be sort of older, more senior females. Hello, beautiful. Yes, we see you there. You can see she's a lot more alert. Look how she's using her trunk. Ears are quite raised, head is up a little bit, and that is very indicative of an animal that is sort of knows there was some sort of disturbance here and some sort of a problem. So that's why she's doing that. But yes, there will be more senior females, and generally they're actually the offspring from the matriarch, and they will feel as though they're part of a more senior sort of side of the elephant herd. Now it seems that they're going to go straight and move down towards Chitwa Dam. I think that's where they're going to head this afternoon. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the sort of route that they're taking, because they are moving quite quickly. And this particular herd I have seen before. It's the female in the front, the one that I recognize. She's got very upward facing tusks, and ones that you see fairly regularly, and they do spend a lot of time in this area. I've seen them quite often moving around, and like I say, there are a number of different cars trying to get past us, which is making for quite a bit of a mess at this stage. So hopefully we'll get all the private cars through. This is the problem with being on a main road with elephants and varying other things. I wonder if they're not going to cross in front of us. It could be the case that they do. You see, she's just sniffing. Isn't this cool? Izzy, you saying it looks like they had a nice bath? Well, most definitely. I think just prior to when we found them, as they were coming down into that riverbed section, I think they were having a big mud wallow around Twin Dams and Baboon Pan and having themselves a really good time, because they are all covered in this dark mud. And then you can see what they've done is, after they've wet themselves and got mud on themselves, they've now taken sand and they've thrown that sand on them, and that sand then sticks to that wet skin and that mud, and it helps just create this exfoliating layer that will get rid of any dead skin cells. It will also help with getting rid of any parasites. So they'll be able to go rub up on things, and that will pull the parasites off that get encased in that sandy sort of crust that forms over their skin. And I always love when elephants cross a road, because all of a sudden they all just kind of bunch together, and then it's in single file. They go across, and generally the young boys will be the last ones to come over. Let's see. Here's one of the youngsters just popping out in front. There is nothing better than spending time with a herd of elephants. So Tanner's in Canada. Hello Tannis, I hope you're having a good day. And you're wondering whether hippo's feet and elephant's feet look similar. Not at all, Tannis. So a hippo's foot will have 4 toes, basically, that splay off like that. They are obviously massive in comparison, big wide toes, whereas an elephant, as you can see as they cross the road now, are almost like big wide circles that they've got. So they've got like a big disc that comes down, and it's sort of got the toenails are in front, but the actual foot structure is hidden within these fatty layers that you see on the actual foot. Whereas with a hippo, you'll actually see very definitive toes that come off, and you'll see the 4 toes in a track. So slightly different feet, and you'll find that the hippos walk a little bit more flat-footed than what you see with the elephants. The elephants tend to walk a lot on their sort of almost tippy toes, and the reason for that is they've got a big fat layer that sits underneath their heel and then comes down under the toes to be able to absorb the weight of the or whoever this leopard was that was moving around here will also decide to come north. And it's interesting because I've had a number of chats with trackers, and they always say if there's an elephant herd, look for a leopard, because leopards for some reason are intrigued by elephants and will often go to the noise of the branches breaking, and so maybe our leopard will come and follow in behind just to see what's going on. We know the 2 of them are quite curious. But while we kind of sit here and enjoy this, I believe Taylor has got something small that also likes to get covered in mud and have a good wallow. So let's go see what it is.
We started off with warthogs this afternoon, and then they disappeared, and now we've got a big pig. He's quite a large boy, and he doesn't seem too perturbed by us being here at all. He's very busy. As you can see, he's down on his knees, and he is looking for nice grass roots to eat. That's what he seems to be doing. Every now and then we see a cloud of dust. So he's obviously digging his hard snout quite hard down into the ground, and turning up all of the grass. He's an older boy, this fella. There's a couple of really big warthogs that live around here. No, come back. Don't disappear. Oh, I was just enjoying him. You know, we haven't had warthog sightings for such a long time. Let me try reposition. Maybe we can get one more view of him, because he's such a nice boy. And then also, if we can try and get another view, remember the impala herd that we had this morning around Chele Pan with one horn Sean? He's here too. If he's following us. See where our warthog went. Oh, he's just here. I think we might get another view of him. Let's see how relaxed he is. I feel like he's been around vehicles for such a long time, he won't really care too much. Hi, boy. Now, he's not the biggest warthog that we've seen. We've definitely seen some others with some much larger tusks, so perhaps he's not that old. And he doesn't seem to have tattered ears. I find that the older boars, as we see with leopards actually, their ears become quite tatty from fighting. So maybe he's not quite as old as I thought he was, looking at him from this angle. They can live for quite a long time up in the wild, about 15 years, but I reckon with the amount of leopards and lions and cheetah and things that we see out here, I don't think that they would live quite that long. Maybe just less than that. I'd say closer towards 12 years or so. And he doesn't have big bottom tusks either. You see that? They're still quite small. But I suppose that's all got to do with genetics. Some warthogs might grow their tusks quicker than others, and again, like we see with elephants, you don't always get a big tusker. So that might just be the case with this fella. But nevertheless, look how sharp they are, those bottom ones, like steak knives. You wouldn't want to stick your hand in there, or you wouldn't want to be bowled over by a warthog boar if he charged out his burrow. It would go straight into your legs. Now, Harrison, you're wondering if warthogs are strictly vegetarian? Well, here's the interesting thing. Is theoretically, about 99% of their diet is grass, and digging for all sorts of other things too, but they predominantly eat grass, and they eat the grass seeds too. They like those. However, I've seen warthogs around many carcasses on camera traps, and they seem to be feeding. Now, we know that bush pig, we don't really see bush pig up here, but bush pig often go and feed on carcasses, but they're normally feeding on the maggots. Now, I don't know what those warthogs were actually eating, if they were consuming meat. It's difficult, but I have seen many snaps of warthogs around carcass. Maybe they were just inquisitive. I've never seen a warthog eating off a carcass personally, but like I said, there's definitely evidence around it. So maybe they're doing something similar. And it's the same thing that goes with the hippos, is I suppose when times are tough and there isn't a lot of vegetation around, they might eat meat to supplement their diet. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened. But whether they're actually feeding on carcasses or they're doing the same thing that the bush pig do and feeding on the maggots, the fly larvae, I'm not too sure. But he is a lovely specimen. Got those big warts too. The top pair is always larger than the bottom pair, and they can get quite big, about 15 centimeters, so almost half the length of a ruler. It never looks, well, they never look so big when we're seeing them, but I have been up close and personal to warthogs before, and it's actually quite impressive how large they can get indeed. But he doesn't seem to be interested in the females. Perhaps he's not big and strong enough to find the girls, or to hold a sounder. He's swatting his tail around though. Okay. Right, we'll leave you, Piggy. We'll go around searching for a leopard. I also did see leopard tracks, so I'm trying to track, I think it's Shadow, because she's going towards the new road. They weren't there this morning, so we're going to go do that. Let's go across to Kenya now, where it seems as though the crocodiles are feasting.
If you haven't met me, my name is Stef and I am manning all the crossing cameras today, and we've seen some amazing things, to be honest. Not much in terms of action from early this morning until now, and then all of a sudden an absolute flurry in the last hour to 2 hours, and it has been a lot to try and keep in focus. But what's happening now is it's raining in the Mara, and it's a large storm. And what crocodiles love to do in large storms is make their way upstream, and usually to river crossings. And what they do there is there's almost always a barrier, and against the barrier fish tend to move. They move upstream, and they get caught in these eddies. And the crocodile's main diet when they're not busy swallowing chunks of zebra is fish. And that's what these crocodiles are making their way upstream for. I don't know why. They've eaten an entire zebra and probably a bunch of other things today as well. But nevertheless, instinct in a creature that is 250 million years old tends to drive over reason. And who knows what these crocodiles do and see and experience. We're only just learning about them now, and you can see that there's a flotilla of them all coming in the same direction. So there's easily 4 or 5 crocodiles that we can see, and of course that means that there's a lot more that we can't. Look at that. All going upstream, all in response to the rain, which is falling now increasingly heavier. Where we are in our studio, thankfully very dry, but you can see there are 4 crocodiles making their way upstream, and probably to the rapids, and they'd be able to hear, see, smell and feel the rain, as well as the increase in the current. I don't think that this rain has been falling nearly long enough for the Mara River to actually respond to the flow, but you can see that the crocodiles have gone on the inside bank. That is where the flow of the river will be at its lowest or at its slowest. And that is where the fish will eddy up. The fish will move out of the strong current and eddy up, and this is where the crocodiles will hunt them. Of course, the crocodile's main diet is fish. They will eat carrion when they can. They will also catch zebra when they can, especially here. Zebra, wildebeest, you name it. Everything else that they can possibly sink their teeth into. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crocodiles, 6 crocodiles if you count the one right in the middle, but on the other side of the island. 7 crocodiles. Now, David, you want to know, would the crocodiles take a carcass out of the water to guard it and eat it? David, I've never seen that happen, to be honest with you. They do come out of the water to swallow because they haven't got a flap that basically, well, they've got a flap that separates their tummy from their trachea, so their esophagus to their trachea. And they need to come out of the water to gulp down food so that they don't fill their tummies with too much water. And so I have seen them bring carcasses out of the water, but only to swallow. They won't bring it out onto the bank. What I have well seen is crocodiles fetch carcasses, especially of leopard and lion kills, on the banks of rivers and drag it into the water. Have a look at that crocodile right in the middle now of the screen. He's now in the main flow of the river trying to get to the other side. He's wanting to go even further upstream. And look there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 crocodiles now that we can see, all moving from one side of the river to the other. Let's zoom in a little bit on that crocodile right at the top there. We can see if he's going to get himself into a position to go even further upstream. And there you can see the rain falling fantastically over the Mara. It is an area where we've needed rain. To be honest with you, the river should be at the height of the bank in the background that you can see there. That's how low the water is at the moment. And what that crocodile's done is now successfully traversed the current and will now be moving into the slow current portion for the next bend. And I would imagine that all these other crocodiles that you can see there will also be doing a similar feat. Isn't that absolutely incredible? A crocodile migration of sorts. All to go fishing. Now, here in the Mara, dead carcasses do pile up in windrows almost on the Mara River, and the crocodiles will absolutely make a feast of any carrion that comes down the river. In this particular case, I'm not too sure where they're going. What has been so amazing about these river cams, these live river cams that you're watching with us, is that we're learning things that you can't learn in books, that I've never read in any papers or anything like that. We're busy seeing behavior that on a daily basis that, might well be recorded from somewhere, but not wherever I can get it. Now, Harrison, you've asked an interesting question about how long crocodiles can hold their breath underwater. Harrison, as far as I know, crocodiles can hold their breath for 40 minutes to 1 hour underwater. But I've never timed a crocodile doing that. They can, of course, slow their metabolism down, being cold-blooded, to only a couple of beats a minute and cool their core down couple of degrees, which will reduce their metabolism and obviously their need for oxygen. And so I do think that it's variable, the length of time that crocodiles can spend underwater depending on their metabolism. In other words, how warm they are, how fast their heart is beating, how warm the environment is, how much effort it takes to keep their metabolism low. These crocodiles coming down the river now. There's a funny crocodile there. He's just surfed down the river. Watching something like this, you can't discount the fact that this crocodile may just be having some fun. We're getting some water on the lens of the camera, and of course these are unmanned cameras, which means there's no camera operator to wipe the lens clean, which is why it's out of focus and a bit blurry. And so I think that's that for this particular camera. So what we're going to do, without further ado, is send you all the way magically back. And every time I say this, it just does something amazing for me. Sort of 3,500 miles south to South Africa, where Tristan has got an elephant to show you.
We do. Well, we're still with our herd, and they've now, once they've crossed over that main road, have settled right down, and it's into afternoon feeding mode at this stage. Everybody's standing next to some sort of foliage and grabbing trunkfuls and shoving their face, really. So they're all kind of spread nicely now and are far more relaxed about things since all the cars have disappeared. We had quite a number of cars around, and I think they made them a little bit uneasy. That coupled with the leopard, I don't think it was very pleasant for them. So now everybody's simmered down and it's all very pleasant in this late Sunday afternoon. It feels like Sunday afternoon chill time now. The Ellies are all taking it easy. But you can see, if you watch this elephant in front here that's standing in the sun, because some of them are positioned in the shade, but just to the right of that one, Craig, there's a little one, and look at its ears. Look how much it's moving. That will give you an indication of just how warm it is this afternoon. When you see ears on an elephant flapping as much as that, it generally shows you that it's a warm day and they're having to do that just to cool themselves down. And it's because that particular individual is right in the sort of brunt of the sunshine that it's having to move its ears quite a bit to cool its body down. The interesting thing is, though, is that the weather forecast is set to change rapidly tomorrow. It's saying that we are going to go from the very beautiful 30 degrees centigrade that we've had, or 80 that we've had today, and it's supposed to drop down to about 18 degrees by tomorrow morning. So 18 degrees is very cold for us in a maximum of the day, so it should be a very different day tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting how that then affects the animals. And I'm sure we're not going to see as much of the Ellies as what we're seeing this afternoon. They generally don't like that big change in cold. They don't mind when we've got a wind like today that's nice and warm, but when we get a very sharp drop in temperature, it's not very pleasant for the elephants, and they tend to try and find thick, dense areas where they can spend a lot of their time. So I wouldn't be surprised these guys head maybe to Chitwa Dam tonight, and then from there they'll try and find somewhere like the Mulawati or the Mulawanini where they can get in, where it's going to be away from any cold wind that might blow, and just try and hunker down until that cold front passes through by sort of Tuesday afternoon. So it'll be a very sort of different day tomorrow, that's for sure. But it's so pleasant to be in amongst a herd of elephants again. It's been a while since we've had big groupings, and this is probably the biggest herd that I've seen in a long time, so very pleasant to have them about. So Chitty Chatty Meg, you're wondering how many Ellies are in this herd. To be honest, have not counted, but just from a rough sort of look from where I am now, There's about 15 that I can see now, so I would say max 20, but probably closer towards 15, somewhere there. I don't know if maybe somebody wants to replay what we had just now and can then have a look at them as they cross the road. There was, I think, somewhere close to 15 of them crossing. So a nice sort of medium-sized group. This is typical of this area. We normally see herds between sort of 15 and 30. That's the average for the Kruger area, or particularly the Sabi Sands. You'll sometimes get the mega herds that come through, which are herds of over 50, and even sometimes you'll get the really big ones that go close to 100, which is something phenomenal to see. But I love watching Ellies at this time of the year feeding off these bush willows. It is absolutely incredible how they're able to use their trunk and their tusks and their feet to break off massive stems like that. You see that is a tree that was growing out of the ground, so it's a young bush willow, and it has used its trunk and its foot to basically leverage it out the ground, and now it's going to just strip it of its bark. So it's going to remove that cambium layer and get all those beautiful nutrients that are sitting underneath that wooded bark, and that will be a very happy Ellie once it's finished with that. And you'll see it rolls it through like it is doing now. You watch how the leaves are being rolled around, and look how it's been stripped. You can actually see where it is. There we go, absolutely stripped. There's very little left there, and that's from those teeth sort of breaking it, and then the tongue will help to actually strip all that bark off. And once she's finished, she'll put it in the opposite way now, and then try and get the rest of it off. And you see she uses her trunk just to feed it in nicely, and then the teeth themselves will roll it as it's going round. It's amazing how clever they are. And that's why the young ones take so long to learn how to know, or to do these things. It's not easy to be able to use a trunk and to be able to know what to do. And so it takes a good 2 years to be able to sort of sort that out and make sure that they get the technique right. Now, Alicia, you say you love how they eat. I know, isn't it fascinating to watch? And the fact that they don't only rely on their trunk is what fascinates me. They use their tusks, they use their feet, they use all kinds of different techniques depending on what type of vegetation they're targeting. So if they're after grass or leaves or fruits, it will all depend on how they actually use every little bit of their body to be able to acquire the nutrients and the food that they want. You can see a little baby there just sneaking in. So Chitty Chatty Meg, you say they are so intelligent. Now this big female on the left is about to do what we wanted it to do in terms of ripping up a whole branch. She's just folding it over with her trunk, and maybe we'll see her wrap her trunk around it. No, I think she's broken it already. Yeah, she broke it already, unfortunately. I was hoping that we were going to see her trunk, because they twist it around the trunk of the tree, and then they just pull it up using the leverage and the weight of that head just to pull it and get it out of that area. So it's a very clever way that they do things. You can hear lots of grumbles, and that is one of my favorite sounds in the entire world. When elephants grumble to one another and make that stomach slow sound, it is the best sound to hear. And it reminds me of my time in Kenya, where we used to lie in bed and hear that outside when I spent some time at the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, and we used to hear this from the stockades of those little orphan elephants, and it's almost like a lullaby to go to sleep to. So it is one of my favorite sounds in the world. I'm going to try and see if I can't just sneak slightly forward, because there's a little baby elephant here. It's so cute. Oh, sorry, little one. I didn't mean to give you a fright. So, there's our little baby just behind its tree. Don't be so scared. There we go. How cute is that? Now, it's not tiny. It's probably, I would say, closer towards 2 years than anything else, but still very cute, and probably the smallest that I've seen in the herd so far. And you can see it's trying to learn how to eat roots, and that's a root that its mom has already dug up, and it's watched its mom dig that up, and now it's wondering what's going on. You can hear the other ones complaining about getting milk on the other side of the road. Right, well, we're going to probably leave this herd of Ellies now. We're going to go try to see if we can't find the sticks while there's still a bit of light, in case they've moved on quite far and it's going to take a bit of tracking. So we're going to leave them and probably let them carry on towards Chitwa. And I know Taylor's plan was to head towards Chitwa, so hopefully they'll pop out there and have an afternoon drink and maybe a swim for all of you, and maybe we'll be able to see them a little bit later. So we're going to carry on, and I think Taylor is somewhere behind me, somewhere in the road, and she's slowly heading in this direction. But let's go across to her and see if she's had any more luck with any of the tracks that she found this afternoon.
Sadly, I haven't had any more luck with leopard tracks. However, are you ready to play a game? I should have been a boxing announcer, don't you think? I'm just joking. Right, I'm going to jump out the car. You know what, Seb, I might actually change my track, because I've just, as you've been sitting here waiting, I think I may have found an even better one. Now, I'm not actually giving you any clues. We're going to look at this track. Let me get a trusty piece of grass. Great for pointing. Let's see what else. Where's this one? I was looking at it while we were in the car. Now, of course, I can't find it, because I was just thinking.
That one a bit more to your left. No?
I laugh at you when you don't know when I'm saying left, but then look at me, I don't know which way which way to go either. Wait. I'm just trying to see a really good one that's not completely obscured. Okay, we'll use this one anyway. But I think we've got two tracks here, Seb. You know, as we were looking at it, I was thinking, hang on, maybe it's 2 footprints. So, no, you see, it's not going to work because there are 2 tracks here, and then it's going to make it very confusing. Where's the perfect one? Where's the perfect one? Can you see another one? Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Seb. Let's do this one. I'm going to use my finger to draw it. Right. Are you watching? Watch very carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who has left this footprint in the ground? I'm going to give you my hand as a size measurement as well. Can you see? No, let me go this way. Look at that. It's not a small track. And I apologize, my nails are very dirty because I was cleaning the car just before drive. But that's not a small track. So who do you think has left that footprint in the sand? Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. And hopefully we'll be able to figure out together who has left that behind. I know who it is though. We'll carry on and see what else we can find out here. I'll give you a bit of time to think, because I reckon there'll be a couple of you that will get it fairly quickly. But I think for the new viewers, it's definitely going to be a difficult track to try and identify. So it's turning the game drive radio right down. Now I'm hoping we're going to find this animal. That's why I'm going to keep going, because those tracks are fairly fresh. They're from this afternoon sometimes. We might also have to listen out for them too. So Chantal's just going to keep an eye out to see if there are any answers coming through. Just check to see which direction they went in. The tracks did go off the road now. Now it's a big gamble just to try and guess where they're going to be. But we have seen them around here in this area a number of different times. Remember, hashtag Safari Live with your answers. Quails, quails, quails. Are you quail? What are you? You were a quail. I didn't brake quick enough. There were little button quails of some sort just in the road in front of me, but now they've completely disappeared into this long grass. You can imagine in here, virtually impossible to try and spot them. Aww. There was 2 of them too. Silly Taylor. I need to stop talking so much and actually concentrate on finding animals. It would have been nice to have a look at some quails today. Oh well, next time. We'll get them next time. We're back on the tracks again. We're going down here now. Any answers coming through yet, Chantal? Feel like you've all had enough time to think? Oh no, P Heart and Deborah, how did you get that so quickly? You got the answer correct. First time round you said ground hornbill. It is indeed the footprint of a southern ground hornbill, and we're still on those tracks. Can you believe it? But let's see if we can try and find them. So 3 big toes in front and 1 toe pointing towards the back. A nice track to actually have a look at. And don't you think for a bird, it's not small, not quite the size of an ostrich track, I'll tell you that, but still very interesting to have a look at. What was that? What footprints were these? No, birds are still walking this way. Let's keep going. Maybe we're going to catch up with them. And why I said we see them on a regular basis, we often see this one family group of southern ground hornbills on Philemon's Cut Line, Rebecca's Road, even up on Quarantine, and then of course on Zoe's, which is the road that we're on now. And they like to roost in these trees down in this valley. So it is getting almost a golden hour now. They're not going to be moving around for too much longer, maybe about another hour. So I'm sure they'll be looking for a nice spot to sleep as well. We'll keep going. I'm just scanning as well. Now this is the difficult part, is where to look. Are we going to look on the ground or are we going to look up in trees? And I personally think we're going to have to check both areas. Like I said, it's not quite late enough for them to sort of roost, but you never know. They were still walking down here. So we'll keep going. Maybe we bump into them actually on the road. That would be perfect. In an ideal world, nice and out in the open, that would be nice. I wouldn't mind spending some time with some southern ground hornbills. They're very interesting birds to watch. And I just hope we can start finding them in the mornings again, because to watch them out and foraging is really quite cool. Hi hornbill. Not your tracks that we're looking for. Let's check here. Last time that I said I could hear the hornbills was so great. They just turned around the corner and they were right there. But I haven't heard them calling, and we're sitting still at those tracks for maybe about 8 minutes or so. I think I've got leopard tracks again. Now this leopard that's moving around here, I'm almost certain that it's shadow. Just want to triple check to see these footprints. They're so distorted from the wind. I wonder if these aren't from very early this morning. You can't even see them. They're not on the road. They're just sort of on that side wall of sand, which makes it virtually impossible to try and see that they're leopard tracks. But I think they were. I don't know where she's gone, but she was walking on Impala Plains. Then she went back towards Triple M into Arathusa, and she turned back and went towards the new road, and I didn't have any more tracks on the new road at all. It was just those southern ground hornbill tracks that we picked up on. So she could still be around here somewhere. Maybe because it was exceptionally hot today she decided to rest.